Here is something almost every person over 60 gets completely backwards. When they picture the moment their body starts to fail, they picture a fall, a slip on the stairs, a broken hip, a hospital bed. But that fall is not the beginning, that fall is the ending. By the time a senior breaks a hip, the real damage has been quietly building for 10, 15, sometimes 20 years. And it started with something so small that almost nobody noticed it. I want you to hear this clearly, because it may be the most important sentence in this entire video. The strongest single predictor of how long you will live is not your blood pressure. It is not your cholesterol. It is not even your weight. It is how hard you can squeeze your own hand. Researchers followed hundreds of thousands of people across dozens of countries, and grip strength beat blood pressure as a predictor of early death. A weak grip was linked to a higher risk of dying than being overweight. Think about that. The thing your doctor measures at every single visit was less predictive than the thing almost no doctor ever checks. That is the early sign. That is what surgeons are begging seniors to stop ignoring. Not the fall, the fade, the slow, silent loss of muscle that shows up first in the smallest tasks. The jar you used to open without thinking, that now needs a towel and a grunt. The grocery bag that suddenly feels heavier than it did last year, even though it holds the same things. The chair you now push off from with both hands. The handrail you now actually hold instead of just resting your fingers on. These are not signs of getting old. These are signs of a specific, named, measurable condition. And here is the part that should make you angry and hopeful at the same time. It can be slowed. It can be stopped. In many cases, it can be reversed, even at 80, even at 90. And I'm going to show you exactly how before this video ends. I have spent the better part of 30 years around this problem, watching what happens to the human body as it ages, watching what separates the 75-year-old who still carries their own luggage from the 75-year-old who cannot get off the toilet without help. And I promise you, the difference is almost never luck. It is almost never good genes. It is a handful of things that the strong ones do and the weak ones don't. Stay with me, because later I am going to give you a 3-second test you can do right now, sitting in your chair. That tells you where you really stand. I am going to give you the exact protein number that most seniors get wrong every single day. And I am going to give you the one type of exercise that a Tufts University study proved could rebuild muscle in people in their 90s. 90 years old in a nursing home, and they got stronger. But first you need to understand the enemy, because you cannot beat something you do not understand. The condition has a name. It is called sarcopenia. Sarco means flesh. Penia means loss, loss of flesh, loss of muscle. And it is not rare. It is not a disease that only unlucky people get. It is happening to you right now, whether you feel it or not. Starting around the age of 30, the average adult begins losing muscle. Slowly at first, maybe 3 to 5% per decade. You do not notice it in your 30s or 40s because you have plenty to spare. But something changes after 60. The loss speeds up, and strength, which is different from size, can fall even faster than the muscle itself, sometimes as much as 3% per year. By the time a person reaches 80, they may have lost 30 to 50% of the muscle they had as a young adult. Half gone. And most of them never knew it was happening until the day their body simply could not do something it used to do. So let me tell you how muscle actually works, because this is where you start to take back control. Your muscle is not a fixed thing that you are born with and slowly use up. It is a living, breathing account, and every single day there are deposits and withdrawals. Your body is constantly breaking down old muscle protein and building new muscle protein. When building and breaking are balanced, your muscle stays the same. When building beats breaking, you grow. When breaking beats building, you shrink. That is the whole game, deposits and withdrawals. And as you age, two cruel things happen to that account. The first thing is that the deposits get harder to make. When you were young, eating a good meal with protein in it would trigger a strong burst of muscle building. Your body would take that protein and eagerly turn it into new muscle. But as you age, that response gets sluggish. Scientists have a name for this too. They call it anabolic resistance. Anabolic means building up. Resistance means your body resists it. So the same steak, the same eggs, the same chicken that would have built muscle easily at 30 now barely moves the needle at 70. Your body has become hard of hearing. It cannot hear the signal from the food as well as it used to. This is critical, so let me say it in a different way. It is not just that seniors eat less protein, though many do. It is that the protein they do eat works less well. The lock is rusty, and the key does not turn as easily, which means an older body actually needs more protein than a younger one, not less, just to stand still. Remember that. We will come back to it, and it will change how you eat. The second cruel thing is happening deeper in your nerves. Your muscles do not move on their own. They wait for orders from your brain, carried down through nerve cells called motor neurons. Each motor neuron connects to a bundle of muscle fibers and commands them like a general commands soldiers. As you age, you lose motor neurons. And when a motor neuron dies, the muscle fibers it commanded are suddenly leaderless. Some of them get rescued, adopted by a neighboring nerve, but many simply wither and die. And here is the part that matters most. The fibers you lose first are not the everyday fibers. They are the fast fibers, the powerful ones, the explosive ones. The fibers you use to catch yourself when you trip. The fibers you use to stand up fast, to react, to grab the railing before you go down. Those are the first to go. Which is exactly why an aging body loses power and speed long before it loses ordinary endurance. You can still walk to the mailbox, but you can no longer catch yourself when you stumble on the way. Do you see how the fall was never really about the fall? The fall was the fast fibers being gone. Now I told you surgeons are the ones warning about this, and I want you to understand why. An orthopedic surgeon sees the very end of this story. They see the shattered hip. They see the 82-year-old who fell in the bathroom. And what they have come to understand, over thousands of these cases, is that the fracture was almost never the real problem. The real problem walked into that bathroom years earlier as weakness. The muscle wasted first. Then the bones, which depend on muscle pulling on them to stay dense, wasted too. Then one day there was not enough strength to stay upright, and not enough padding to absorb the fall, and the whole structure came down. Surgeons can fix the bone. They put in the screws and the plates and the new hip, but they cannot give back the 20 years of muscle. And they will tell you quietly that a huge number of seniors who break a hip never fully walk again the way they did. Some never leave a wheelchair. Some do not survive the year. That is why they are warning you now, while you can still do something about it. They would much rather you never end up on their table at all. So how do you know where you stand? You do not need a lab. You do not need a scan. I promised you a 3-second test, and here it is. I want you to find a normal chair, one without arms if you can. Sit down in it all the way back. Now cross your arms over your chest so you cannot cheat by pushing off. And now, without using your hands at all, I want you to stand all the way up and sit all the way back down 5 times, as fast as you safely can. Count the seconds. If it takes you longer than about 15 seconds to do 5 stand-ups, that is a warning sign. If you cannot do it at all without your hands, that is a louder warning sign. This is a real test that clinics use. And it works because standing up from a chair is one of the purest measures of the leg and hip power that keeps you independent. Do it today. Write down your number. Because in a few months after you do what I am about to tell you, I want you to do it again and watch that number improve. There are a few more quiet signs I want you to watch for, because the earlier you catch this, the easier it is to fix. Watch your walking speed. If you find yourself falling behind people you used to keep up with, if the walk light turns and you can no longer make it across the street in time, your muscle is talking to you. Watch your grip, the very thing that predicts your lifespan. If jars, doorknobs, and bottle caps have become little battles, that is not stiffness, that is strength leaving your hands. Watch your calves. There is a simple check where you wrap both hands around the widest part of your calf, and if there is loose room to spare, if that calf has gotten thin, it can be a sign of muscle loss in the legs. And watch the scale in a strange way. If you are losing weight without trying, especially if you are eating about the same, do not celebrate. Unexplained weight loss in a senior is very often muscle walking out the door. Muscle weighs more than fat. When the number drops on its own, it is frequently the wrong thing that left. All right, you understand the enemy now. You know how muscle is built and lost. You know the early signs and you have tested yourself. Now I am going to keep my promises, one by one, and give you the exact plan. And I am telling you plainly, this plan rests on two pillars. Just two: protein and resistance. Everything else supports those two. If you do nothing but those two, you will change the course of your aging. So let us start with the one seniors get most wrong. Protein. I told you earlier that an aging body needs more protein, not less, because the signal from food has grown weak. So here is the number. For years, the official guideline for protein was set low, around 0.8 of a gram of protein for every kilogram of body weight. That number was built around young, average people. And for seniors, it is simply too low. The researchers who actually study aging muscle now recommend seniors aim higher, roughly 1 to 1.25 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, and even more for those who are ill or recovering. Let me make that real. Because grams and kilograms mean nothing when you are standing in your kitchen. If you weigh around 150 pounds, you should be aiming for somewhere around 70 to 90 grams of protein a day. Most seniors I have seen eat half that. They have a little toast and jam for breakfast, a small soup for lunch, and then they load all their protein into one dinner. And that, it turns out, is a mistake because of the second thing you need to understand about protein. It is not just how much, it is when. Remember anabolic resistance, the rusty lock. To turn that rusty lock, you need to hit it with a strong enough key at each meal. Studies suggest that to really trigger muscle building in an older body, you need a solid dose of protein in a single sitting, in the range of 25 to 30 grams, ideally with enough of one special amino acid called leucine, which is the master switch for muscle building. Leucine is the spark. You need roughly 2.5 to 3 grams of it per meal to fire the engine. That is why loading all your protein into dinner fails. 60 grams at dinner does not build twice the muscle of 30 grams. Your body can only use so much at once for building. The rest gets burned for energy or stored. So the winning move is to spread your protein across the day. Get 25 to 30 grams at breakfast, 25 to 30 at lunch, 25 to 30 at dinner. 3 shots at the target instead of 1. This one change, spreading protein evenly across 3 meals, is one of the most powerful and most ignored things a senior can do. Breakfast is where most people fail. If your breakfast is currently coffee and toast, your muscle got no deposit at all until noon, and it has been withdrawing all night long. Where does that protein come from? The most powerful sources are animal proteins, because they carry the most leucine and the most complete set of building blocks. Eggs, whole eggs, not just the whites, because the research does not support fearing them the way people once did. Chicken, turkey, fish, especially the fatty fish like salmon that also carry good fats, lean beef, Greek yogurt, which packs far more protein than regular yogurt, cottage cheese, which is one of the highest protein foods you can keep in a refrigerator, milk. If you eat little or no meat, you can still win, but you have to be smarter about it, because plant proteins carry less leucine and you must combine them. Beans with rice, lentils, tofu and edamame, which are among the strongest plant sources. And for anyone struggling to chew, to cook, or simply to eat enough, a scoop of whey protein powder in a glass of milk is one of the single most efficient tools that exists. Because whey is naturally rich in the exact leucine spark your muscles need, keep it in the kitchen. It is not a bodybuilder gimmick. It is medicine for aging muscle. But protein is only one pillar, and here is the hard truth. You can eat perfect protein at every meal, and if you do not do the second thing, you will still lose muscle. Protein is the bricks, but bricks alone do not build a wall. You need a reason for your body to lay those bricks down as muscle instead of burning them or storing them as fat. And that reason, that signal, is resistance. This is the pillar seniors are most afraid of, and it is the one that works the best. I promised you the tough study, so here it is, because it demolishes every excuse. Researchers took a group of frail nursing home residents, not spry 60-year-olds. The average age was around 90. Some were in their late 90s. Many used canes or walkers. And they put these people on a simple program of resistance exercise, working their legs against weight, a few times a week for a couple of months. The results stunned the medical world. These 90-year-olds more than doubled the strength in their legs. Some threw away their walkers. Some who could not stand from a chair without help could suddenly stand on their own. In 8 weeks, at 90. If a 90-year-old in a nursing home can rebuild muscle, then the excuse that you are too old is finished. It is dead. Bury it. Here is why resistance works when nothing else will. When you make a muscle work against a real load, when you make it push or pull something heavier than it wants to, you create a small, safe stress inside that muscle. That stress is a signal. It tells your body, in a language older than words, that this muscle is needed, that it is being asked to do hard things, and that it had better get stronger to survive. And your body, even at 90, obeys. It calls up the leftover motor neurons. It thickens the fibers. It relearns how to fire many fibers at once. Walking will not do this, because walking is a load your body already handles easily and sees no reason to grow for. You need to challenge the muscle, not just use it. That is the difference between activity and training, and it is the difference between fading and thriving. Now do not panic. I am not sending you to a gym to lift a barbell over your head. Resistance for a senior can start in a chair. Let me give you the movements that matter most, the ones that protect independence. First and most important, the chair stand, the same movement from your test. Standing up from a chair and sitting back down, done with control, is a real strength exercise for the exact muscles that keep you out of a wheelchair. Start with as many as you can do with good form, rest, and repeat. As you get stronger, slow it down or hold a light weight against your chest or use a lower chair. Second, the heel raise. Stand behind a sturdy chair, hold the back for balance, and rise up onto the balls of your feet, then lower slowly. This rebuilds the calf, which is your first defense against stumbles. Third, the wall push-up. Stand facing a wall, hands on the wall, and push your body away and back. This keeps the strength in your chest, shoulders, and the arms you need to catch yourself and to push up off the ground. Fourth, the sit to reach or a simple seated leg extension. Straightening your knee against the light resistance of an ankle weight or a resistance band, which rebuilds the thigh muscle that is often the first to waste. And fifth, if you can safely, the step up. Stepping up onto a low, stable step and back down, which trains the whole leg in the exact pattern you use on stairs and curbs. The rule that makes this work is simple. 2 to 3 times a week, not every day, because muscle grows during rest, not during the work. And the load must eventually challenge you. If 10 chair stands feel easy, your body has no reason to grow. Make it harder. Add a repetition. Add a light weight. Slow the movement down so the muscle works longer. This is called progression, and it is the secret the strong ones understand. They keep asking a little more of their body, and their body keeps answering. The moment you stop asking, it stops answering. And I will be honest with you, before you begin any of this, especially if you have heart trouble, joint replacements, or balance problems, talk to your doctor and start light. Nobody rebuilds muscle from a hospital bed. Slow and steady wins this one every time. There are a few supporting players worth knowing, because they help the 2 pillars do their job. The first is vitamin D. A huge number of seniors are low in it, and low vitamin D is tied to weaker muscles and more falls. Your muscles literally have receptors for it. Get your level checked, get some safe sunlight, and ask your doctor whether a supplement makes sense for you. The second is the fatty fish I mentioned, salmon and sardines and mackerel, because the omega-3 fats they carry appear to help older muscle respond to protein and exercise a little better, almost like oiling that rusty lock. The third, quietly, is sleep and staying hydrated, because muscle is built during deep sleep, and a dehydrated body handles none of this well. And the fourth is simply eating enough total food. You cannot build a house during a famine. If a senior is barely eating, cutting calories to lose weight, the body will strip its own muscle for fuel. This is the time to feed the body, not starve it. Let me leave you with something you can actually cook, because I do not want this to be theory. I want it to be dinner tonight. Here is a full day that hits the protein target without any exotic ingredients. For breakfast, 3 scrambled eggs cooked in a little olive oil, with a scoop of Greek yogurt on the side and a piece of fruit. That is your first 25 to 30 grams, and you got it before noon, which most seniors never do. If cooking is hard in the morning, blend a simple shake instead. 1 scoop of whey protein powder, a cup of milk, a spoon of peanut butter, and a banana. 30 seconds, 30 grams done, and it is easy to swallow and easy to digest. For lunch, a can of tuna or some cut chicken over a bed of greens with a little olive oil and cheese, or a bowl of lentil soup with a thick slice of cheese on the side if you eat little meat. Again, your 25 to 30 grams. For dinner, a piece of salmon or a chicken thigh, roughly the size of your palm, with beans and a vegetable. There is your third dose, and the salmon slipped in your omega-3s at the same time. And if you get hungry between meals, reach for cottage cheese, a hard-boiled egg, a handful of nuts, or a glass of milk instead of a cookie. Every one of those little choices is a deposit in the account. So let me bring you all the way back to where we started, because I want this to stick. The fall is not the beginning. The fall is the ending. The beginning is the fade, and the fade shows up years earlier in the smallest things, in a grip that weakens, in a chair you push off from, in a walk that is slowed. That fade has a name, sarcopenia, and it is not your destiny. It is a process, and every process can be interrupted. Your body is not a machine winding down that you are helpless to stop. It is a living account taking deposits and withdrawals every single day. And you hold the pen. Feed it protein, spread across 3 meals, more than you think you need, because your aging body hears the signal less clearly than it used to. Challenge it with resistance, 2 or 3 times a week, asking a little more each time, because a muscle that is challenged is a muscle that survives. Do those 2 things and you will not just slow the loss. You will very likely reverse it, the way 90-year-olds in a nursing home reversed it in 8 short weeks. So here is what I want you to do before this day is over. Do the chair test and write down your number, because you cannot fix what you refuse to measure. Then eat 1 real dose of protein at your very next meal, starting with tomorrow's breakfast, the meal you have been skipping. And then this week, do your first set of chair stands right there in your living room, arms crossed, one after another, as many as you safely can. That is the whole beginning. A number, a meal, and a set of stand-ups. Because the seniors who stay strong are not the lucky ones, and they are not the young ones. They are simply the ones who started, and who refuse to ignore the early sign. Do not ignore it. You have far more power over this than anyone ever told you. Start today, and your future self, the one still carrying their own bags and rising from their own chair at 85, will thank you for it.